you, sir. We are moving forward to our next session, that is including some special issues here. And for this last session, we would like to invite our chairperson. First of all, I would like to invite well-known Dr. Arvinda Jagnisha. He is a well-known diabetologist from Bangalore. He has numerous academic degrees with him, including 3 FRCPs and 1 MRCP also. And he has numerous awards to his credit, to name it, and he has been associated with multiple conferences also. We also have Dr. Sandeep Taksar from Jodhpur, Rajasthan. He is a senior diabetologist and endocrinologist there. Like to have you both here to chair this next session on special issues. And for this, you can invite our next speaker. Sir, your voice is not clear. Sir, your voice is not getting.
Hello. Yeah, good evening. So I think Alvinda's voice is not coming. So I will introduce the first speaker. First speaker is Dr. Sachin Chitwar from the Bhopal. Dr. Chitwar is an endocrinologist practicing in the Bhopal, and he has done his MD from the GMC Bhopal, obtained a DM from the AIMS Delhi, and he is consulted at the Harmony Center for the Excellence in Diabetes and Obesity. Apart from the endocrinology practice, Dr. Chitwar also teaches the postgraduate student as an associate professor of medicine at the Hamidia Hospital, Bhopal. Over to Dr. Chitwar, please.
Can you take the poll question? Sir?
Yeah, before that, we will have a poll question. Question is, thyroid disorder is more common in diabetes, more common than diabetes. Is it true or not true? So this was the question, and over to Dr. Chitwar. Yeah, we have 50% results. Previously, we used to see a lot more thyroid disorders than the diabetes, but over a period of time, I think we have seen more and more of a diabetic disorders.
Shall I start?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are very much audible.
All of you, respected Bansi sir, respected chairpersons, and Dr. Jimmy. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So I've been given this daunting task to talk about diabetes and thyroid as a twin epidemic. And with pathophysiology, and when you go in pathophysiology and so many things, there is a association. So I'll be covering this in few minutes. And with that, I will go a little bit with the case-based approach. So as we all know, we have been seeing this slide so many times. The morbidity and the incidence and prevalence is going up. And this is something, is a matter of concern. And with respect to thyroid disorders also, see, our question was like this only. In India, it is around 11%. And in majority of areas, in India, the incidence and prevalence of diabetes is also somewhere around about 10%, somewhere 14%, in down south, somewhere around 19%. So this is something which is there. So 42 million people suffer from thyroid disease in India, and 1 in 10 adults in India suffer from hypothyroidism. So it is almost a 50-50 match, or I will say a 20-20 game for diabetes and thyroid. So let's see how does one affects other and how does diabetes affect thyroid. So with that, so the thyroid disorders and diabetes, in what way it is associated. The two most common endocrine disorders are encountered in clinical practice, and diabetes and thyroid disorders have been shown to mutually influence each other, and thyroid hormones contribute to the regulation of carbohydrate metabolism, pancreatic function. On the other hand, diabetes affects thyroid function test. So the importance of screening of diabetic patients to identify thyroid diseases, the association between diabetes and thyroid dysfunction, we know this since long, that is 1979. And the prevalence of thyroid dysfunction among diabetes patients is somewhere around about 2.2 to 17%. And few studies have observed very high prevalence of thyroid dysfunction in diabetes, that is around 31 to 46%. So this is again, the house is open. We need to actually have more and more studies actually trying to look into this aspect of thyroid and diabetes. It is thyroid disease is found in both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. We know about the autoimmune part, the holy grail of thyroid disease. Majority of our thyroid disorders are autoimmune disorders, and type 1 diabetes itself is an autoimmune illness. So they share a common holy grail, that is autoimmune diabetes associated with thyroid dysfunction is commonly seen in type 1 diabetes. In routine practice, you need to screen your type 1 diabetic patients and follow up if they did not turn out to be type 1 diabetes. Vice versa, for this also we need to see. And the term thyroid diabetes was an old term which we are not using it now, but early literature used to depict the influence of thyroid hormone alterations in the deterioration of glucose control. So the role of autoimmunity has been well recognized in the link between autoimmune thyroid disease and type 1 diabetes. A relation between thyroid dysfunction and type 2 diabetes mellitus has also been suggested, but the possible underlying mechanism and drivers show complex interaction. Lack of thyroid hormone is also associated with a decrease in peripheral insulin sensitivity, and glucose intolerance and treatment of hypothyroidism has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity. So coming to the next slide, so association between immune-mediated type 1 diabetes mellitus and autoimmune thyroid disease. Nearly 1/3 of all newly detected type 1 diabetic patients have coexistent thyroid autoimmunity and a high prevalence of thyroid dysfunction. The high prevalence of thyroid dysfunction emphasizes the importance of routine screening for this and the all newly detected type 1 diabetic patients, followed by annual TSHSA. And type 1 diabetes may be seen in associated with hypothyroidism in Down syndrome and also in patients with congenital rubella. So let's go with this case. A 14-year-old boy with history of type 1 diabetes since last 5 years, and his fasting blood sugar was 126, postprandial was 170, HbA1c was 7.4, and this is something rare to see in type 1 diabetes. Uh, Presented with complaints of not growing in height, his younger brother has grown taller. This is again a very important clinical point, which is very important. You'll need to see the siblings. If the younger sibling is growing taller than the elder one, this is something which is alarming. And was also worried about the poor secondary sexual characteristic development. And his height was 150 centimeter, and as for the parents, the mid-parental height is somewhere around about 170 centimeters. X-ray bone age was done and revealed a bone age of 12 years. This is very common among thyroid disorders to have this, but this is a case of type 1 diabetes. Till right now, we don't know about the thyroid status of the patient. So his LH and FSH and testosterone levels were in the prepubertal range. He has not entered puberty, though he is somewhere around about 14 years. And this is very common in Indian settings for boys to go in puberty around 13 to 14 years. And if it is not there after 15 years, we call it delayed puberty. So the routine investigations were normal. So the diagnosis was type 1 diabetes with delayed puberty. We were not aware of what is the cause of it. So thyroid profile was done, and T3 was low, T4 was also low. It was a case of overt hypothyroidism. Levothyroxine was started, and height and bone age was repeated after 6 months. Patients started gaining height, and thyroid functions have become normal. Now, after 2 years of levothyroxine supplementation, he is 168 centimeters tall, almost touched his mid-parental height, and has entered puberty and full secondary sexual characteristics. So diagnosis of type 1 diabetes with hypothyroidism and delayed puberty, which recovered on levothyroxine supplementation. So dear friends, this is a typical case of delayed puberty when in case of type 1 diabetes, if hypothyroidism is missed, this will lead to delayed puberty and hypogonadism. And when we supplement them, they grow very fast, they achieve their milestones, they achieve their mid-parental height, and the secondary sexual characteristics also appear. So this is something very typical which we see in our routine clinical practice. So this is there. So common pathological mechanism between diabetes and thyroid. The thyroid hormone exerts profound effects in the regulation of glucose homeostasis, and this effects include modification of circulating levels of insulin and counter-regulatory hormones, intestinal absorption, hepatic production, and peripheral tissue uptake, fat and muscle of the glucose. So this is the common lineage. Poorly controlled diabetic patients, that is type 1 or type 2, may induce a low T3 state. This is very typical. They have got low T3 levels just because of the peripheral dehydrogenase levels are less. That's why the conversion of T4 to T3 is less. Characterized by low serum total and free T3 levels, increase in reverse T3, and near normal serum T4 and TSH concentration. So this is something which we routinely we don't discuss, but it is there in literature, and there are plenty of studies which are validating this. So low normal thyroid, there are several mechanisms, that is decreased insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance, and down regulation of plasma membrane of glucose transporters. And treatment of hypothyroidism has been shown to restore insulin sensitivity, and hypothyroidism is associated with several components of metabolic syndrome. So every now and then we are either going to diabetes casting its impact on thyroid and thyroid having its impact on diabetes. So let's come to the hyperthyroidism. In hyperthyroidism also, the GLUT2 expression will go up and hepatic glucose output will increase and it will lead to hyperglycemia. On the top of it, there is gut motility will also go up. There will be more absorption of glucose from the gut and it will lead to hyperglycemia. So the effects of thyroid hormone on liver and peripheral tissue, this is a very interesting slide. It increases gluconeogenesis. My dear friends, if something is increasing gluconeogenesis, it will be conversion of fatty acids and proteins, amino acids to glucose. So you'll have hyperglycemia, lipogenesis, decreased glycogen synthesis, increased glucose output, increased glucose transport, increased lipolysis, increased glycolysis. These are all fancy terms. Sometimes if you are not in touch with it, you'll find it difficult to get it. But my dear friends, this is the basic core of diabetes, and somehow, somewhere, let it be a revision kind of thing for us. So let's come to the case 2. A 30-year gentleman with weight loss, with proptotic eyes and goiter, warm extremities, tachycardia, BP was normal, and normal routine investigations were there, and TFT was done, and T3 and T4 were high, and TSH was suppressed, that is 0.01. So we are basically, it looks like as a case of hyperthyroidism. Thyroid scan revealed an uptake of 7%. Any uptake with technetium scan more than 4% is basically positive for Graves' disease. So diagnosis of Graves' disease was made, and repeat thyroid functions were done after starting carbimazole, that is was after 2 months. And thyroid function test was controlled, they were normal as per expectations. TSH usually takes time. The recovery of TSH will, there are a good number of patients who recover within 2 years. So we don't judge it by the TSH, we judge it by the T4 levels. So all adrenergic manifestations were absent. So propranolol was stopped, which was given as a routine protocol for the treatment of hyperthyroidism. And he complained of weight loss. See, weight loss is a typical feature when we start illness, when we see at the start of the illness because of hyperthyroidism. So after starting treatment, he gained weight of 2 kgs. Later on, he started losing weight. So when the thyroid functions were near normal, T4 was normal, adrenergic manifestations were not there. So the differential diagnosis, the question of the house is with respect to this is what is causing the weight loss. So it was, since thyroid functions were normal, fasting plasma and postprandial blood sugars were done, and it turned out to be 200 for fasting, postprandial was 354, and HbA1c was 10. A diagnosis of Graves' disease with diabetes was made, and it responded nicely to oral hypoglycemic agent and has get his normal weight. So dear friends, this is also a clinical setting which will be encountered by you all in your clinical practice, hyperthyroidism causing diabetes, and this is something which is very common. So the effect of diabetes on thyroid disease, let's go to this slide. This is a very nice slide as has been published by Dr. Sujay Ghosh also. And this is talking about diabetes mellitus in euthyroid individuals. Basically, if someone is not having a thyroid problem, he is diabetic, he will have decreased levels of T3 and reverse T3 will be more. TSH response to TRH will be impaired because of the effect of sugars at the hypothalamic level. Then there will be less of TSH peaks. If the patient is diabetic, in hyperthyroidism individual, there is a poor glycemic control. 50%, around 50% they develop diabetes, and increased incidence of dysthyroid optic neuropathy. Hyperthyroidism in euglycemic individuals, those who have normal basically sugar levels, but the thyroid hormones are haywire, they are high. There will be glucose intolerance in 50% of the cases and over diabetes in 2 to 3% of the cases. Hyperthyroidism in diabetic individuals, that is deterioration of diabetes control, and hypothyroidism in diabetic individuals, predisposition to recurrent hypoglycemia. Hypothyroidism itself predisposes hypoglycemia because of the unused, unmetabolized insulin levels which go up, and there is also insulin resistance. In autoimmune type 1 individuals, there is increased prevalence of type 1 diabetes, there is prevalence of thyroid disease. This we all know, and there are syndromes like polyglandular where they type 1 and type 2, where there is an association of type 1 diabetes and with hypothyroidism. So that was a very interesting slide. And the effect of diabetes on thyroid diseases, how does it affect Graves' orbitopathy? Actually, it is the major complication, the most fearsome complication of Graves' orbitopathy is dysthyroid optic neuropathy, where there is compression of the optic nerve by large extraocular muscles, and it leads to blindness also. So the incidence of DON, that is this thyroid optic neuropathy, goes up in patients with diabetes. So this is something we have learned how diabetes affects thyroid disorder and how thyroid disorders, they affect dysglycemia or glucose intolerance, or they cause diabetes. So there are some guidelines from good houses, that is ATA guidelines. Patients with diabetes may require frequent testing for thyroid dysfunction and recommend TSH for someone above 35 years, and high risk person may require more frequent tests. As per the American Association AACE, thyroid palpation and TSH at diagnosis and at regular intervals, especially goiter or other autoimmune diseases are present. No specific recommendations for type 2 diabetes. So it is definitely you need to see if for type 1 and thyroid as per the, so we have got guidelines which are talking about this. And so let's come to case 3. A 15-year-old female with history of weight gain, unwanted hair growth, few white stretch marks, and history of irregular menses. The provisional diagnosis was PCOD after ruling out the other causes of hyperandrogenism. And her routine investigations were normal. Serum testosterone was towards the higher side of normal range, and serum insulin, that is, fasting was high. Though it is as per the guidelines, it not required, but it was done. So I have mentioned it. So her T3 was normal, T4 was normal, and TSH was 7. Borderline highs, we call it subclinical hypothyroidism, and fasting blood sugar was 110, ppbs was 170, and HbA1c was 5.8. She was in a pre-diabetic range, impaired fasting glucose, and impaired glucose tolerance, and HbA1c of 5.8. So diagnosis of PCOD with subclinical hypothyroidism and pre-diabetes was made. This is very common in our clinical settings. We see that kind of girls in our clinical practice every now and then. She was advised to do regular exercise and was given low-calorie diet. Orlistat was also started. And after 2 months of treatment, she lost around 8 kgs. This is something which is very routine in my clinic, and regained her normal menses. See, most majority of the times when they lose weight by 5 to 10 percentile, menses are normal. Fasting was 94, ppbs was 140, HbA1c was 5.2. This is what I will say reversal of pre-diabetes. And see the TSH, it is now 4. So the enigma is why these obese patients or obese children, they have TSH in subclinical hypothyroidism range. So this is something because of the leptin levels which are less in obese individuals. Again, the T3 expression on hypothalamus and pituitary is less on the TSH receptors, and there is impact of this. So, and with that, again, I will give a passing statement of the effect of metformin on thyroid functions. Dear friends, there are a good number of patients who are on metformin for their treatment of diabetes. So they have got actually the effect of metformin is little bit suppression of TSH. So that has to be interpreted in that way. And with that, I will end my lecture with summarizing hypothyroidism and type 1 diabetes share a common autoimmune background of etiology. Type 1 and type 2 diabetes should be regularly screened for hypothyroidism. Hyperthyroidism can lead to hyperglycemia and diabetes. waves of thrombopathy can be exacerbated to dawn in the background of diabetes. And association of
There is a connection with Dr. Sachin, sir.
Yeah, he got stuck, I think.
No problem. It was its last slide only. Can we proceed for the next session? He will join for, I will call him and make it join for the question and answer session.
Okay, sure.